Welcome, everybody, to the Hounds podcast. I want to start off with a quick apology for last week. I've definitely had some technical difficulties. I had something recorded and set up for y'all, and for some reason, the file went corrupt on me after I'd recorded, and it was about midnight before I should be putting it out before I realized that, and it just wasn't happening. I'm sorry. So if y'all were wondering what happened last week's episode, that is why. I do apologize again. It's not something I've ever encountered and hope to never encounter again. But what's cool is this episode that's coming up, y'all should really enjoy. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. We've been in talks with our guest for a while now. When we finally were able to get it landed, and I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all a heads up. One of my favorite sit down and records ever. I really enjoyed this. We talked a lot of good stuff. Man, just talking about some of the dogs that our guest had, and just the stories behind them. It was everything I could ask for, and I hope y'all enjoy it just as much as I enjoyed recording it. So we're going to do like we've been doing here also. I want to start y'all off with a couple of things. We're going to start off with our quote for the week, and that is, everything that is happening to you is God's processing. Every difficult moment is a processing. That's all it is. Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you ask God for. It's from Steve Harvey. And to add to that, let's hit our Bible verse for the week. And this one's actually verses. This is a classic, but it's such a good one. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understandings. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Those ones, that's such good stuff. I got a lot going on around the house, and I thought about the home life, and I felt like those were needed and hopefully can pass some inspiration on to y'all. So I will not hold this up anymore. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. I do got two quick things to say. I will be at the Tidewater this weekend. Finally get to compete and hunt. We've hit one or two one-days this year, so some small stuff, but we've been prepping and training hard, and me and the crew, we're splitting up. I'm taking a few dogs to the Tidewater, and they're taking some to the James River. So this year I will be at the Tidewater. I decided that I wanted to kind of do a flip-flop, and I wanted to come back to the Tidewater this year. So I will be at the Tidewater. So if you're there, please come by and visit. And I'd love to see you if I haven't met you before, and if not, even if I have, come on by and say hi, or I'll try to make some rounds and walk around, and hopefully I get to see everybody. I do got to make a trip Saturday morning after cast. I got to take some puppies down to Ben's and take them off to training camp for a couple weeks. So during the hunt Saturday morning, I will be gone, but I'm going to try to be back about time catch up is. So that ought to be a fun little morning and adventure. So if y'all see me dip out real quick Saturday morning, that is why. I got to haul the mail, get down there, and drop them off, turn around, and haul the mail back. So best of luck to myself. And also, just some heads up, I know I've been kind of slack, guys. I am working on getting everybody their numbers for the Hollywood hunt right now for the Pin series. So y'all bear with me. Like I said, I got a lot going on, guys. I do apologize. There's a lot of stuff that has come up and has really slowed me down on doing that. But I promise I am working on getting them back to you. I do need the money in for the Double C hunt here in the next couple weeks, so don't forget, if you haven't sent your money in, I'm going to be making a post about it. Y'all be sure to get your money in, and as soon as you can, please. And I believe that is it, guys. So like I said, if you're going to be at the Tidewater this weekend, come see me. Love to see you. I'm going to try to have my banner, the one you see up behind me. I haven't got a new one made. So I'm going to have that one up and ready to go, and hope to see everybody there. So without further ado, here we go. Let's get into this episode, guys. Welcome, everybody, to the Hounds podcast. This is your home for field trialing and deer dog hunting. It'll be stories and discussions on the world of dog hunting. So let's drop the gate, cast your hounds, and get ready for another episode of the Hounds podcast. The Hounds podcast is proud to partner with Outdoor Dog Supply again for the 2025 season. Outdoor Dog Supply is the leader in online garment sales with their world-class trade-in programs. These guys are not just a business, they're also houndsmen and women too. They test their products out in the field and really put them to the test. Get the latest in garment equipment, stay locked and ready with field trial equipment, collars, leashes, and so much more. Visit their website today at outdoordogsupply.com, and we want to thank Outdoor Dog Supply for their support not only for the podcast, but in the field trials across the country. When you're looking for your next purchase and equipment, keep Outdoor Dog Supply in mind. Now let's get this episode started, guys. Thank y'all so much. Welcome, everybody, to the Hounds podcast. On tonight's episode, I am joined by the Lakehills Kennels. How you doing tonight, brother?
Fine. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So just so anybody that doesn't know, just want to let you do a little quick introduction of yourself. You know, just tell us who you are, where you're from, brother.
My name is Paul West. I'm from Pineville, Louisiana.
Gotcha. Deep in the deep south.
Central Louisiana, right in the middle of it.
Okay. I gotcha. I know them southern pens, it's hard for me to get down being all the way up here in Virginia. I definitely want to make some trips down that way eventually.
Yeah, there's some good pens down here.
That's what I hear.
A lot of good pens.
Here you got to have a high stepping dog to can do good down there too.
You do. You have to have a fast dog that can run something. But where today do you not have to have that? You have to have
that's right.
Everywhere.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Things have changed.
Yeah. It seems that seems to be a conversation I see a lot on Facebook and just hanging around talking to people. Is that the slow break, I guess not really slow, but the break it down style dogs are slowly but surely seem to be working their way out of the sport.
That's right.
So, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been a houndsman? How long have you had dogs in your life and been involved around them?
Well, I'm closing in on 50 now, and I can remember 6 years old, so 44 years I've been running dogs.
Okay.
That's really all I've ever done.
I gotcha. I understand. Now, did that start off in the competition world, or was it out there in the open? What did you do to start?
We started in the wild, and we deer hunted a lot, and of course my father's the one that got me started, and
I gotcha.
And running dogs and competition as well.
All right. Well, I know we kind of spoke about it, and if you feel like it and you want to, I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about him and how he got you started, and maybe some of his background too. I know we had talked a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, but inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, correct?
Well, it was 2 years ago. Whenever the Masters was in Swainsboro, the last time it was in Swainsboro, we inducted him into the Hall of Fame. Dad's name was Russell West, and a lot of people don't know him, but the name rings a bell to a lot that's hunted in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. We had the plantation fox pen for probably 35 years.
Gotcha.
And that's originally. Well, that's the second year of the Masters was ran there, and then thereafter many times it was ran there. But Masters started in Wilton, Arkansas. Fred Walker started in Wilton, Arkansas, then it came to Gina, Louisiana. But Dad was a big part of that.
I gotcha.
But he was president of Louisiana State for many, many years when we ran it on the outside.
Right.
We ran the Louisiana State in Huntston, Louisiana for many years out there on the outside. USO came there. A lot of big hunts came there. But Dad was an outside hunter, and that's how I grew up hunting. I grew up hunting outside with him, and he was a good hunter.
Awesome. Sounds like you definitely had a good one to learn off of and follow behind for sure.
Yeah, I did. I was very, very blessed, and when I say blessed, the Lord blessed me in many ways.
Yes, sir.
I was in great hands with him, as well as a lot of hunters around here. I was brought up hunting with a lot of really good hunters.
Okay. I got you. Maybe some names that we might recognize?
Well, I mean, probably, out y'all's way you might not, but anybody listening in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas knows, Conley Manning. He was a big influence to me. I hunted a lot with him. I hunted a lot with Johnny Foster. Johnny Foster lives right here by me, and he not only was, we have the Hall of Fame here in Louisiana too. We give out a Louisiana Hall of Fame at our state hunt every year, and Dad was inducted there, and Toby Spurlock as well, and Toby was a guy I looked up to. He not only was a big competitor, but he was a man of the Lord, and every time we were at a field trial, you knew where he stood.
I like that.
Johnny Foster as well. He was inducted into Hall of Fame. He probably, some of these people I'm telling you, Johnny Foster, Rayvell Pennington, Danny Joe Daniels. A lot of those three I hunted with a whole lot, and I have all my life.
Right.
And they're not only hunters, they're men of God, and you learn a lot more from them than you do from a dog. But right. They were really good houndsmen, and I learned a lot from 4 or 5 men there that I was just blessed to learn that from.
It definitely sounds like you were surrounded. That's for sure. The good Lord put the right people in the right places for you.
And they're still, other than Dad, all those are still in my life, and I still get to enjoy them. They're old, but I still get to talk to them, call them, and love them to death. That's
right. And you never forget those kind of people.
Nope.
You definitely never forget them. That's the kind that, from down the road, the next people that are following behind you'll be able to tell those stories and carry those stories on for years to come.
Yeah. One thing that my father always told me, and I've learned later in life that was a very true statement. He said, "Lead by example."
Mm-hmm.
And for the hunters out there, the middle-aged hunters to the older hunters, there's young hunters watching you, so be an example. Be an example, and a lot of good things will happen down the road.
I agree. I like that. I like that a lot. I think that carries a lot of weight. That seems to be a very forgotten thing in this world now, and I think the power of social media has made that go away even more than before.
It has.
It's easy for somebody to show their butts on social media, and that's one thing that I see people talking on Facebook about different things in the pens and in the competition world. I'm like, guys, maybe this person just hopped on Facebook one day and said, man, I really want to learn some more about the field trial world, and then you see people acting a fool on there, and or go to their first field trial and see something stupid, Yeah, you don't know who you just drove away. Maybe you just drove away a future champion of the sport. You don't know.
Right. I guess that might be a different conversation for a different time, but I would love to talk to you about what the Lord's done in my life and how He's blessed me, because He did bless me in many ways and still does.
I love that.
And being young, you don't realize so many of those blessings, and I was just blessed. I've been blessed with a lot of good hounds and I was around the right people.
Well, I'm not going to stop you from preaching. I can tell you that. I love hearing that kind of stuff, man. That's that's one thing, I started here recently with the podcast is I started with the scripture. I've found myself to where I felt drawn to get better and get more right with God and try to live a more live a better life according to Him. And I feel like I've since that has started, a lot of things have really changed in my life and seem to be going better. And I give it all to Him, that's for sure. So, I'm definitely not going to stop you from from preaching on here. I can tell you that.
We had a song in church Sunday. It was the verse. It was about counting your blessings one by one, and then if you sit back and you listen and you start thinking on that and you meditate on it a little bit, man, we're getting blessed every day. First thing is when we wake up in the morning.
Yes, sir.
But man, I've been blessed with being able to do what I love to do every day. A dog and a horse are my two favorite things, and I'm blessed that I can walk out the door and I got a pen full of dogs and a barn full of horses, and that's how I make my living. And a lot of people wonder how I do it or what I'm doing, but that's the way I was blessed,
Yeah. And sometimes you probably don't even know either. Sometimes it's the good Lord just looking out for you and putting the right things in the right places for you.
A lot of times I'll look and I'll say, how did this happen? How did this happen? but yeah, everything's not always been a gravy train. I've been through some tough times. And I'll tell you, we're all going to go through those tough times. And if we're not grounded spiritually in the right way, they're going to mow you down.
That's right.
But if you get where you need to be, and things will work out. They'll always work out.
I agree 100%. The Hounds podcast would like to take a minute and talk about our friends over at Cinjun Lights. When pleasure running at night or judging those nighttime field trials, you can put your trust in Cinjun Lights. With the economical Cajun Bayou for the every now and then light user, the Cajun Micro for the nighttime feeds and around the house times, then the top level Cajun Blinder for those hardcore crossing getters at night. The Cinjun Lights are headlamp style light that free up your hands for voice recorders or your GPS. They offer flood style lights in red, amber, and a white walking light. Then the top of the line 4-level main beam light. If you're having a hard time catching crossings at night, give the Cinjun Light a try, and the red and amber setting to catch the game without distracting them, and with the easy flick of a switch, go back to your main beam light to catch your hounds in action and get those numbers. Visit their website today at CajunLights.com, and at the checkout, make sure you fill out the survey after your purchase and select Hounds Podcast to receive 5% off your next purchase with Cinjun Lights. Now, let's get back to the episode. 100%. So, you said you had started off in the deer woods. About when did you and your dad make that transition into the competition world?
Well, he always was a competition hunter. Dad always, when I was too young to remember, he was competition hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got big enough to go to a field trial, I went.
I gotcha.
Dad and my brother, I love deer hunting. Mm-hmm. We hunted outside, deer hunted all my younger years, and then in the last probably 10 years we slowed down around here in Louisiana because we lost most of our public land to run dogs on deer outside. So we have to go to Mississippi, Arkansas, or east y'all's way to run deer, and I've done that. I've been privileged to hunt all over. I've hunted Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to run dogs everywhere outside.
Nice.
But yeah, we Dad was always competition. He wanted to win. He put that in me.
Right.
If you beat him, the next time wasn't going to be so easy. He's coming back at a different angle.
He took notes off that time.
Yeah, and he would. I guess where I got he'd buy a dog. He if there was a better dog, he'd try to own him.
Uh-huh.
And I guess that I got a little bit of that in me. I got a lot of that in me.
Well, you say fool me once, right?
Yeah. Buying a dog ain't as easy as it once used to be.
No. Gosh, no.
Yeah.
Gosh, no. That was... I feel like I always got into it too late, and I had a guy the other day that was talking to me. He was asking questions, and it was just a good guy. He was trying to get into the sport, and he's like, "Well, how much do I need to set aside to get a good dog?" I said, "Well, do you want a good dog or do you want a winning dog?"
Yeah.
I said, "You want a winning dog, you might want to have a comma in that number."
Yeah, and then the question I get every day is people calling to buy dogs, and we sell a lot of dogs, but
right.
But they want me to tell them that I'm fixing to sell them dogs going to win, and that's impossible anymore.
Yep.
You can't sell a dog and say it's going to win today because there's another good one right around the corner.
That's it. Ever changing.
It's hard to call a win now.
Right.
I used to. I was pretty good at it, but now I'm about to give up on that.
You say times have changed just a little bit.
Times changed. But, yeah, I grew up walking behind Dad in the woods deer hunting.
Love
making
that.
drives.
Yeah, I love that.
And, I loved it, and I went on into my teens.
Right.
And I had the privilege of hunting with a man by the name of John LeBlanc. That was one of my dad's good friends. He's got a dog in the Hall of Fame, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
LeBlanc's Chocolate. But, she was a really good jit. But we hunted down there with John. We hunted on horseback.
Wow.
And many mornings, I was 15, we'd get on horses and start out, and they'd turn the dogs loose, and we'd make drives all day.
Man.
That's how I really grew up, doing two things I love, riding a horse and running dogs.
I bet that's, man, I'm not much of a horse person, but I will say if I ever had the opportunity to do something like that, I think I would probably have to just swallow my fears and get up on it and try that for one time. Yep.
It can get dangerous. A lot of water and a lot of sloughs where we hunted. And like I said, I mentioned him earlier, I hunted with Ray Pennington, and me and him rode together every day, and it was that's a part of my life I'll never forget. And we watched a lot of good hounds, and he taught me a lot about dogs and what they should and shouldn't do.
Yep.
You ride with them while they're running and trailing and working, and you learn a lot.
Oh man, I bet that's. I'm sure it would be. I think it would be very difficult up here, in just the way our terrain is and that kind of stuff. It'd be difficult to do that. But I'm assuming it's a little flatter down y'all's way, a little more open.
Yeah, it's flat, and we had the land.
Mm-hmm.
And that hunting club was on a pretty big piece of land, and it was rough going. A lot of people kind of shunned it, but.
Yeah. I mean, I'm huge, and I say, even my deer dogs. I still walk my deer dogs. I'm not the drop the gate and let them go wherever they want to go. I'm a hike it kind of guy. So, I love watching my dogs work. So to even think about that, being beside them while they're running and or at least close, being able to get a little bit more into action and see them really working, watching them off that horseback, man, God, I wish that would be something I would 110% love to try.
Yeah, it was. I don't even know if they do it anymore, but it was a thing here.
Right. So you've traveled. Sounds like you traveled to quite a few states deer hunting. What would you say your favorite place to deer hunt would be? I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I tell you, I've been to some really nice places deer hunting, but I'm gonna have to say that my favorite place to deer hunt is right here, 20 miles from my house.
Okay.
National Forest.
I gotcha.
20 miles north of me, it'd be in a little north of a town called Pollock.
Gotcha.
Probably right off one of my most favorite places.
Yeah.
Got a lot of good memories there.
I'm sure.
Hunted lot of good hunters there.
Right. I understand that. It's hard to beat where you grew up or where you've made the most memories. That's for sure.
Right.
They now what kind of terrain? You said it's all flat. Pretty flat, then.
Well, that's kind of, it's pretty flat, but there's a little rolling hills, open, big open hardwood woods.
Yeah. Prime time for some deer running.
Yeah, and they've got some places like that in Mississippi that I really enjoyed. The national forests over there, and probably, and if you take deer hunting out of that equation, probably one of my favorite places to hunt is Grenada.
Okay. Yeah.
That's if you hadn't ever been there, you need to put it on your bucket list.
Yeah, it's 100% on there. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it's 100%. I told the wife, I was like, one of these years coming up, I was like, we will be making that trip. I was like, I don't care if we got to make it into a family trip and take 2 weeks off of work. That's going to be a trip. We're going to make it and do it.
Yeah.
So, as far as your competition side goes, what were some of the dogs that stick out to you early, with your dad and growing up and getting into the, learning the ropes? What's some of those dogs that you grew up hunting around?
Well, if you go back to when I was probably 10 or 11, we had some Hagen bred dogs, and they were really nice. We hunted them outside and then you get up past that, a year or two down the line there when I'm getting, probably when I was probably 12, I was training puppies for people. They'd get on a four-wheeler and I'd go behind our house. And that's where we lived in a subdivision called Lakehills Kennels. Lakehills subdivision, and that's what Dad named our kennels, Lakehills Kennels. And,
Gotcha.
And we had pretty good acreage behind our house and behind our kennels, and I'd just get on a four-wheeler and go through the fence. And
nice.
I had red fox denned up. I fed them every day, and I had 2 beagles. I'd jump them with 2 beagles, and then I'd train the walkers. And then that's how I trained all during the summer. Every day I trained puppies, and then, and I got to thinking, that's what I want to do. And I'm not saying that for all the kids listening, but that's what you need to do, because it ain't always been easy. But I had that in my mind that I could do this. I'm gonna make a living doing this one day.
Right.
And it when I got on to 15, probably up, we had some. We got into the Levi Reno. And I really liked Levi Reno. He was one of my favorite sires.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of dogs out of Levi Reno. I had 2 dogs. I called them Rico and Winona, and they were both out of Reno and a Sharky's Brunch Jip.
Okay, I got you.
And we won a lot with those 2 dogs. I liked those dogs, and then we had, right on down the line, we had a dog named Firecracker, the Lakehills Firecracker. We placed a lot. He was if I can remember, he was a Steep Gully judge. That was a dog owned by Roger Johnson there in Pitkin, Louisiana. And then had one of our nicer dogs and we won a pretty good bit with him outside. Was a dog called Will Hagen. That's probably the nicest white dog I'd seen in my early running. And I always think of that dog, and I want a white dog equal to him, and I hadn't found it. I'm looking for that dog. but he was a Hagen bred dog, and so.
Them old school white dogs are hard to beat, weren't they?
Yeah, that dog had a lot of heel, and back in the day, white dogs weren't known for that. So he was one of my favorites.
Were you able to ever get anything off of him?
No, he died. He died early, so we never got anything off of him. He got ran over.
man. It's always those dogs. The ones that are just the one in a million. Something crazy happens.
Always those dogs. We had a Gyp. Probably one of the fastest Gyps I ever saw. She was a Pool's Fast Fun Gyp, and I can remember her name was Cookie, Lakehills Cookie.
Mm-hmm.
And she got ran over. And just when you hunt outside like we did,
that's the gamble.
That might be the last time you cast them.
Yep. I tell people that every day. Anytime anybody asks me, well, ain't you worried? Yep, I worried every time, but that's just the unfortunate side effect and the chance that you take when you turn loose. I mean, heck, even in the wire, you don't know what something's crazy going to happen. But
right.
So kind of talking about growing up with your dad and hunting with your dad some more, just a little bit. How many champions were y'all able to make? Were y'all into the multi-day hunts, I'm assuming?
Well, we did a lot of one-day hunting.
Okay, gotcha.
And, we did make champions, but I can tell you this. I go through hundreds of dogs in a year.
Right.
And it's hard for me to remember.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to remember a lot,
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I got around 30 at the house, and it's hard for me to remember. So I can't imagine you having to try to remember all that.
I just, probably there at the end of Dad's, he went with me a lot, and then the night of Katrina, which was, I can't remember which year it was. It's probably 18, 20 years ago whenever Katrina hit
something
the
like
hurricane.
That. Right.
My mom was paralyzed that night.
Oh, my gosh.
Had a stroke and got paralyzed, and that wrapped it up for Dad. He never went back hunting. He never left her.
Wow.
He stayed with her and took care of her to the end.
Love that. I mean, I hate that happened, but I love, that your dad was that passionate with your mom. That's awesome. That shows true love right there.
Yep.
Yep.
But like I said, I was blessed with a good father and a good mother. And
yes, sir.
He was a deer hunter, loved it as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
He's killed a lot of big deer. We've got them mounted. We've got animals everywhere here he's killed.
Right.
And I can remember first deer I killed. He was there with me, and I can remember the dogs that were there, and he field trialed. He field trialed to win, but when that happened, that was it.
Yeah. Yep.
He made a commitment to be with her, and that's how it ended.
I can respect that a lot. A lot of respect for that. That's a good man. That's a good man for sure. So, when did you kind of start? I guess was it after that you kind of started venturing off by yourself, or was it did you kind of do your own thing? How did the I never ventured off. Okay.
By myself until he died.
Gotcha.
He died in 22.
22.
I went to field trials all over the country by myself, but I never made it be me. It was always, I let him be in on decision making. Whatever he thought, we were together. Even when he got at the end, I wanted him to help make the decision. I wanted him to be a part of it, because without him, it would have never happened.
I understand.
He put the right dogs in my hands, and I'm sure we're going to talk about a few of them here in a minute.
Absolutely.
And I'll emphasize.
We're going to take a quick second and pause this episode and talk about our partners over at Elite Nutrition. Our hounds, they're athletes, guys. They give us their all each and every time that they're casted. Elite Nutrition offers an all-natural products to give your dogs the natural benefits they deserve. From the canine remove and all-natural wormer to the Electro Boost paste for an electrolyte replenishment, body fluid balance, and blood flow improvement. They also have products like Active Dog Powder for recovery and joint muscle support, Essential Dog Powder for daily vitamins and minerals, probiotics, prebiotics, and enzymes, and then the Canine Lactate Powder for nursing dogs to help with milk supply. There are tons of other products for y'all to check out at CajunLights.com. Then click on the Elite Nutrition section to explore. When you go check out, only at CajunLights.com, use the code HTElite10 to receive 10% off your Elite Nutrition products. Again, that's HTELITE, the number 10, to receive 10% off Elite Nutrition products only via CajunLights.com. I've been using their products over the past couple months, and I could not be happier with the results. See for yourself today, and we want to thank Elite Nutrition for taking a step forward into this field trial sport. Now, let's get back to the episode, guys. Yeah, well, let's roll into that. That's a good segue into that. I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I think out of the names we got wrote down, probably one of the biggest ones that it seems like a lot of the stuff, a lot of yours goes back to. It produced some legends. Lakehills Rusty.
Yes, sir.
I know. Just looking at it, just a quick looking and doing some digging on the computer for a few minutes. That was the sire to your Holyfield, and he's got it all dog. And then also another big one is the Wisnet's Preacher B.
Yeah.
The sire to all three of those. So, tell me a little bit about Mr. Lakehills Rusty.
Rusty was probably, I'm going to say, and listen, when we get back to talking about being blessed, I've been blessed with probably too many good dogs. I don't know. I've had some really good ones, and I'm probably going to sound repetitive when we get to talking about some of these, that they were one of the best ones. Well, you said it on that one, yeah, but I'm just telling you, I was very blessed. But
right.
But I'm gonna have to say that he was probably the best hound I've ever seen run.
Wow.
And I just can't say enough about his ability to run game and his speed. He was
okay.
And a lot of those dogs that are really good like that don't produce
right
many, or that you might get one here and there. But he is, and I don't have to build him up or shoot a bunch of bull. You can just read pedigrees and see what he did for the fox hunting world.
Right.
He was, I don't know of a sire, it's been some, but I don't know many that's in as many pedigrees as he's in. And
yeah. I know. I was going through just looking, of course I was looking at a lot of your dogs and stuff like that, but even like it seemed like every dog I was looking at in it was like, go back to Rusty, back to Rusty, back to Rusty, back to Rusty. I was like, my gosh, man, like I've never looked for that, and then once I started looking for it, I was like, oh my gosh, man, he's there all the time.
Yeah he could, the dog he was a really good looking dog. He was a big black and tan dog.
Okay.
He had a good move to him, and running was easy for him. And the dog could run a piece of game with ease. When
gotcha.
I say that, I mean he didn't have to have his head on the ground, and he didn't have to work at it. He could just run it. He could pick his head up and go, and he had a lot of coyote sense. He knew where coyote was headed, and I'm talking.
That's
about
hard
running,
to find.
I'm talking about running outside on a coyote on the outside. I'm not talking about running a coyote around in a pen.
Yeah.
I'm talking about running a coyote outside and dominating the pack of hounds.
Huh?
He could.
That's tough.
After 2 or 3 hours, it's going to be a one-dog race. I can't tell you the nights that we relayed dogs on him.
No kidding.
We catch dogs and pull up and be waiting on him when he hit the road and turn loose to him. He was that kind of hound. And if you didn't have him in the road, ready to cast them, and they weren't paying attention, you just didn't catch them again and bring them to the next road.
So he just knew how to motivate a piece of game.
Yeah, he was that kind of dog.
I love it.
Yeah, we bought that dog from another Hall of Fame hunter, O'Neill Hempill. Very good hunter. Yeah, we bought that dog from O'Neill when he was, I think Rusty was 10 months old. I'll never forget it. I was at a field trial in Anacoca. He had a 71 on him. Okay. And he come across the road in front of my truck looking at a coyote way after call off. And now I went home. Me and Dad talked about it, and he asked me what I saw, and I told him. I said, "That's one of the best puppies I've ever seen."
Right.
And I got home from school one day that week. Rusty was standing in the dog pen.
No kidding.
And back then, he paid a pile of money for that dog, and that, and that was unheard of then. But you know, I'd go buy him 100 times again if I could find him.
Right.
For the same money.
What about what years were you was he alive?
Oh man.
Make you dig back.
Yeah, you making me dig back. I was probably, that dog was from, I guess I was probably 20.
Okay.
When he was in his prime, probably 20. I was in the 20s. We got him probably when I was 17. So
gotcha.
We had him probably 92, 93 on till, mid 2003, 2004.
Wow. So, but his competitions were early mid 90s then. That's when he was striking hard.
Yeah, he won his first hunt when he was like 10 months old. He won a 2-day hunt.
That's tough.
Yeah, and then the dog had a heat stroke when he was a year old, so we couldn't run him at all when it was in the summer. Mm-hmm. We couldn't run him at all, so we put him in a lot of 1-day hunts.
Gotcha.
A lot of 1-day hunts. The dog won a lot of 1-day hunts.
Right.
And we placed him, that was back when money hunts were big, and we went all over with that dog and won a lot with him. And we knew then that he was
That was going to be something.
Yeah, and I didn't chance anything.
I don't blame you.
After, he was 2 or 2.5, I knew what I had, and we'd never chanced him. We never run him in another 2 or 3-day hunt.
Right.
We never took the risk.
I don't blame you.
And we bred a lot of gyps to him, and we took that speed that he had breakaway speed.
Right.
We took that and crossed that on a lot of gyps, and that's where we come up with what you got now.
Right. So I know one of the dogs. I mentioned him earlier. Holyfield. That was one off of them that I had seen that y'all. I know y'all had him studded out there for a little while. What's his story, and what's what made him be a stud for y'all?
Well, Holyfield came from. I'll give you a little history there.
Yeah.
Holyfield's out of a gyp called Lofton's Holy Star. Got her from Don Lofton. Might have got her from Dr. Finley Stanley. I can't remember, but I think both of them are on her pedigree. Mm-hmm. But anyway, she was out of a dog called Lofton's Heart Attack.
Right.
Lofton's Heart Attack was one of the better dogs I ever saw in the 3-day. That dog was very young, and that dog did a lot of winning at our pen in Gina. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but there's a lot of people that's been to Gina, and it was tough to win there. That pen was tough to win. And so I wanted one of those gyps to breed to him, and we got Holy Star, a Heart Attack gyp, and we bred her to Rusty. She had 10 puppies. She had 10 puppies. We raised them right there, and I can remember most all of them, but the ones to remember is you asked if Dad, some of the champions we had.
Yeah.
Lakehills Flash was a mate to Holyfield, and the Lofton's Bethlehem dog. We had him. We didn't call him Lofton's Bethlehem. I think we called him Drum. Everybody in Louisiana knows him by Drum.
Drum.
Yeah, and and it was, but those three, Flash, Holyfield, and Drum, were the best of the litter.
Gotcha.
But I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna be safe by saying Flash was a little old black gyp. She was the best one of the litter.
No kidding.
She won the World Cup. Dad won the World Cup with her. I was gone, and he championed her there while I was gone.
Huh.
But Holyfield was, my reason for him, you didn't find a dog looked any better than him. He was a pretty dog.
Gotcha.
And for one thing that Dad instilled in me, other than being very competitive,
mm-hmm.
Right. Looks mean a lot.
Yeah.
So I've not left from that. I mean, I've got to have a really good looking dog.
I understand.
That's the kind of dog I want to breed to. So he was the best looking dog of that litter.
I gotcha.
and I placed him one year. I placed him in 5 3-day hunts. I don't know if I won. I don't think I won one. I was like second in a couple.
But still, like, golly.
5 3-day hunts in 5 different states.
Wow.
And 5 straight consecutive months.
Oh my gosh, that's tough.
Yeah, I put him to the test. A lot of people don't know that about him. But he was a beast. So we started breeding him. We always had a really good male dog starting, when I first started hunting, and it continued to Rusty, and then right on down to these others we're going to talk about.
Right.
I always had a measuring stick. We always had a really nice hound here.
Yeah.
That we made our other ones live up to that standard, and if they didn't,
Man, and people don't realize how beneficial and how good that is to have. Like, I mean, I was fortunate enough to make the champion last year, and he became my measuring stick. I said, all right, well, we know he's got it. I need you to run with or be better than him to stay here. And that's,
exactly.
When you got something like that sitting at your lots, it makes raising and watching and learning a whole lot easier. Gosh, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Right. But we try to keep one of them, and all the dogs we breed to, even today, that they've got to live up to that standard. I mean,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
They all got to run something by themselves outside with a lot of authority.
Yeah.
And they got to look good for me to breed to them.
So what happened to Flash?
Flash, we didn't get any puppies off Flash that were really good. I mean, she was one of those that was a really good runner, but
yeah,
it didn't really produce anything. And she just
I understand that.
But Drum, they changed his name to Bethlehem and made a stud dog out of him. But and he's in a lot of pedigrees.
Yeah. He's
in a lot of pedigrees.
Absolutely.
That dog placed in every hunt in my pen, and he championed there. I think it was the Plantation Classic.
Okay.
He championed that, but the next thing to that, he was at all 5 of those hunts with Holyfield. He placed once.
No kidding.
So that was my decision between the two.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Still, he was a very good dog, and he produced good.
Gotcha. The Hounds Tales podcast is happy to announce our newest partnership with Low 10 Outfitters. If your kennel is looking for new apparel to rock to the next field trial, look no further than Low 10 Outfitters. They offer shirts, hats, hoodies, coats, and other accessories with custom logos for your kennel or your hound to go on. With top quality merchandise and long-lasting quality, you can't go wrong with Low 10 Outfitters. And very soon we will be offering Hounds Tale podcast apparel on their website at low10outfitters.com. So be on the lookout for that coming up here soon. Thank you, Low 10 Outfitters, for teaming up with the Hounds Tales podcast. And don't forget, guys, low10outfitters.com to get your apparel for your kennels. Now let's get you back to your episode. So what about he's good? He's got it all, dog. You know, when I saw that name, man, I had to look at it a few times to read it. I was like, oh, I see what we're doing here. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. That dog was probably one of the best looking dogs I've ever owned. He was extremely fast.
Yeah.
You know, the part I left out about breeding to dogs is looks and ability and all that is I like them to have a good family.
Okay.
And probably his sisters were better than he was.
Interesting.
Yeah, his sisters, and that was another Flash. It was
right.
a flying Flash, and they
gotcha.
were off Rusty, and I'm not looking at it. I'm thinking of Hell's White Man Jip. I think her name was Danny's Lou D.
Okay.
Came from Danny Dowie's owned her. He's another good hunter that I was privileged to grow up with. I've hunted with him and his brother Don Dowies, but their dad D.A. Dowies was the man I bought Flash and Fly from. I raised He's Got It All, and I'd sold those two Jips, and he started winning a little bit in puppy hunts, so I went down there and bought them back. But those two Jips were at 11, 12 months old. They were as good as they ever were. They were grown dogs at the age of a year old, and they could beat you then just like they could when they were 3.
Got right quick then.
Yeah. One of my best memories with those two Jips is one of the Fly won most of the hunts. Flash would be second. They won a lot first and second, but we were at a local pen here, and they put them all in the alley. All the dogs, this little derby hunt, pretty high dollar hunt.
Yeah.
They put them in this alley where she climbed out and went to running, and it was daylight. They let her run 30 minutes before they casted the rest of them. They already knew they probably wasn't going to beat her. They was trying to get an advantage. but I'll tell you what, dogs make things happen for you, and it gets good to you, and that was good to me that morning.
I bet.
She had a really good clear mouth, and she was just calling on them, begging them to turn the dogs loose.
No, you can't do nothing but sit back and smile when something like that happens too.
Yeah, but so for him, those two Jips were a big influence in me breeding to him. But he could, he was a nice dog.
Right.
And did a little placing, a little winning with him, but I never won as much as I did with those two Jips. But then we sold him. I think LaRon Ladner got that dog.
Gotcha. Okay. Out of everybody that I've talked to, on this, doing the show and just kind of beating around, I've never heard anybody mention that you look for a good family behind the dog too. That's an interesting take. I've never really thought about looking towards that direction and see what the rest of the litter's doing.
Yeah. A lot of times the family's going to produce.
Right. It makes a lot of sense after you said it. I'm like, man, why would I never think about that? But once you said it, that just clicks, man. That's perfect. So, next up on our talking point list is one that I know a lot of names. I mean, you get into this sport, and this is one of the ones that you hear a lot. Just some notable names that he's produced is High Cotton Rowdy and Bonds Wheeler, and your long black train dog. So we're talking about Lakehills Jaybird.
Yep, Lakehills Jaybird. He was a really nice dog, and he produced. He produced as well. I don't know how many champions he's produced, but but he's produced a pretty good many of them, and I'm not going to say I like him as a producer like I did Rusty, but I tell you what, it ain't far. It ain't far off.
Right.
And he probably came from the best family of dogs that I've ever saw.
Okay.
Jaybird was out of the Rusty 2 dog, and I want to say, was it Peggy Sue Gibbs or Anna Grace Gibbs, one of the two.
Right.
But Race Rusty 2 was his daddy's, and we bred her to Loper's Miss Brittany.
Okay,
And
I got you.
I know that should ring a bell, but
Yep.
Loper's Miss Brittany, she was the dam to Jaybird and Millionaire.
Gotcha. Okay.
And same dam, and she was a really good producer. She produced a lot of good dogs.
Awesome.
But Jaybird's family was.
Yes.
I don't know if I'll get them all, but I know, and a lot of those dogs came out there. There was 4 gyps that could get in anybody's race.
Right.
And they were going to beat you, and that was I don't know what the Yak. It was Lakehills, but I think I sold her to Scott Wells and Baden Bond. I think they might have made it Wells, Yak, Yo-Yo, Lizzie, and Lena. It was 4 of those gyps, and
right.
And Lakehills High Sox.
Okay. Yeah.
He was one of those too, but as far as breakaway speed, Jaybird had it.
Gotcha.
I think he was. He won a 2-day hunt there at my pen.
Right.
Placed in the Texas State. Then he won a 2-day hunt there at my pen and pulled both back hamstrings.
Oh man.
Yeah. And I never ran him again.
Dang.
We just started breeding to him, and mainly because of his family. I sold those gyps for ungodly amount of money.
Right.
And I sold everything but him, and I think I kept Lena. And so
right.
He was a really good producer.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say just in the quick search, just quick digging that I did. I mean, you're talking about 2 very well-known dogs right there, just between the High Cotton Rowdy and the Bonds Wheeler. Bonds Wheeler, I know that dog produced a lot of dogs. So, talking about the family thing, that makes a lot of sense when you're looking at it carry through.
Yeah.
That's some strong blood.
Wheeler won the Masters twice.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a dog here right now, High C Conway Twitty. Came from Toby Spurlock. Harry Capwell bought him. He won the Masters of Swainsboro the last time the Masters won Swainsboro.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's 3 Masters champions I know.
Right.
That's come off of him. And then on the Bayou, Coot, she won the Hound of the Year one year.
Wow.
It's just he's a producer as well.
He's done it.
Was. Yeah. And a lot of my breeding has got him all over it. I've got 2 young stud dogs here now off of him that they're off one of my better gyps, and we really look forward to what they're going to do for us.
Very nice. Excuse me. Another one that definitely seems to be a big time producer. From what I've seen, I know he gets promoted a whole lot. Was Lakehills Chili. That was another good one y'all had.
Yeah, some people get Chili and Chili business messed up, but
right.
Yeah, Chili was from a family also. Chili came from a really good hunter right here west of us, Clay Grantham. He's gone on to be with the Lord, but
right.
But Clay had a really good gyp in Pawnese Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was a Curry's. Well, she was out of Gambler and Dakota and Smith's Gambler, I think, and a Curry's Levi gyp.
Okay.
But, Pepper was a producer. She produced a lot of good hounds. But that cross, Wild Goose Tommy was a Terrebones Tommy, which came from Rodney Terrebone in Mississippi.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and they bred Wild Goose Tommy to Pepper, and we got this litter Chili. But we also, in that litter was Stride. I championed Stride.
Mm-hmm.
Lakehills Black Pearl. She was.
Yep.
She was. If she was a gyp's, the only reason that her name's not plastered all over everything, but
right.
I won the Top Gun with her.
Yep.
Championed Stride. Chili won the Top Gun at Swainsboro. First time I'd ever been to Swainsboro.
Okay.
By the way, that's one of my most favorite pens. It is.
Gotcha.
I love Swainsboro. But anyway, first time I was there, Chili won the Top Gun, and I think Hillbilly was third. But
wow.
But yeah, that was a real litter.
I was going to say, that's a litter right there.
If you break it down to Chili and Black Pearl and Stride, they were some nice dogs. And,
that's a lot of champions in that litter.
Yeah, and I right after I won the Top Gun with Chili, I went to the World Cup there at Paul Caskey's.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know what happened, but that was the last day he ran. The first day at that World Cup, they came and got me about 2 hours after we casted and said I needed to come there, and he was in the road, and Clyde Ely he was there, and he tells me he came off that big rock, and he was running the coyote one off one side of it, went airborne and fell and broke himself all up. Whatever it may be that he was crippled.
Yeah.
For good then. I mean, that was the end of his run.
That was the end. Dang.
Yeah. But he scored 495 points in 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We thought that we were
y'all were on to something there.
we was thinking that sheet came out, I was, man, this is pretty good here. But then it all got off.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's part of it.
Yeah,
I went on to breed some gyps to him, and I sold him to Glenn Howe in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yep. Glenn bought him, and
okay.
And that's where Chili ended up. But you see his name in a lot of pedigrees out y'all's way now.
Yeah. I know. He's off. One off of him's B&B's Chill. That's that one obviously gets thrown around a whole bunch. And I think that dog's been a pretty good producer as well.
Yeah, B&B's Chill. I raised him here. He was out of Chile and Anna Grace Gibbs.
Okay, I got you.
I'm pretty sure I'm right there. Anna Grace Gibbs, one of the best. She was not only a producer, but she was a really good hound. Ben Gibbs.
I was going to say, I've heard you mention that name a few times.
Yeah. And so I think I was at the South Georgia, and I won the hunt with Chill. I won the Derby with Chill,
mm-hmm.
Yep. And Baden Bond bought him. And then I guess Brandon wound up getting him from Baden, but that's how that went.
I gotcha. So that dog changed some hands a few times.
Yeah, he did.
Yep.
It wasn't cheap the first time, I'll tell you that.
It probably won't cheap the rest of the times either, if I had to guess. Just hearing who it had to go through, I would say it was probably a pricey little exchanges.
Right.
But two names. We'll come back to another one, but two names we've talked about quite a few times. I'd like to hear a little bit more about Black Pearl. While we're talking about that litter.
She was a very fast gyp, could run a coyote. She reminded me a lot of and if I had to pick out of her and Chili, as far as if I'm gonna win something, I'd say Pearl.
Okay.
And I think I don't know that the Top Gun that he won, I think she placed.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure she placed.
Gotcha.
She might have been
right there on top.
Also, then the next year she won it. She won it at my pen, but numerous one-day hunts she won.
Right.
She was probably more of a one-day type dog.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's had some. We bred her and got some really good gyps out of her.
Did she seem to produce one-day dogs, or was she kind of little, depending on what you took her to? Yeah,
she's, kind of whatever.
Gotcha. Yep, understood.
I don't people ask for 1-day dogs all the time. Or if is it bred for this or bred for
Yeah.
that? I breed for. Dog needs to do what I'm going to do. If I'm going to go to a 3-hour, it needs to run 3 hours. If I'm going to go 3 days, he needs to run 3 days.
That's right. That's right. Yep. And if they can't, I've heard a lot of people say that, people will try to breed for a certain thing, and sometimes it works. Sometimes you can take that gamble and hit the nail on the head, and sometimes you breed for it, and they come out and you think you're getting a 3-day dog, you end up getting a 4-hour money hunt dog.
Yeah,
you just got to adapt and go to where the dog tells you to go.
I think that's where we run into a little problem nowadays. I think we're breeding for the wrong things instead of breeding for a good hound.
Right.
At the end of the day, the dog that runs the game the most and stays there the longest is going to win.
That's right. Like we talked about earlier, that can motivate a piece of game.
Exactly.
So, another one, Lakehills Ike. That one we haven't really talked about a whole lot tonight. What was that dog's story?
Man, that dog right there is very special to me.
Yeah.
We all loved Ike.
Okay.
I won some 1-day hunts with that dog that a lot of people didn't think he could win them, but didn't look at him as that type hound.
Right.
Ike wasn't a very good looking dog. He was a average good looking dog.
Right.
He didn't have it wasn't easy for him he wasn't an easy free mover.
Okay.
He was just a hard moving dog.
Right.
And I think at the Masters at Creedmoor, when that dog was 2, that's when back when Mighty Man was running.
Okay, yeah.
I went to I think at the Masters there, Creedmoor, I think Mighty Man might have won the speed and drive. Ike was second speed and drive, and that was a really good hunt. But I think we both got beat out on a hunting score.
Oh, of course.
I can't remember what dog that was that won that, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
That was the Top Gun. That was Top Gun because I remember we gave a buggy away at that Top Gun.
I gotcha. Okay.
And then we went the next week to a 3-hour money hunt. I always remember this. Mighty Man beat him on speed and drive on that hunt. And then the next week, them dogs didn't have 5 or 6 days rest after 3 days. And Ike won a big money hunt there at Terry Bird's in Mississippi, and that was wide open running.
Yeah.
And Mighty Man was there also. I think Mighty Man was 4th, and Ike won it. Those two dogs swapped a lot.
I was going to say, that must have been some swapping back and forth with those two.
Yeah. But then we came back to the Masters. My timeline was a little wrong. We came back to the Masters, and that was in March. And Ike was second at the Masters. Again, I didn't win with him. And I won. He came back there, and he tweaked his ankle a little bit. He hurt his ankle a little bit. Then I go from there to Louisiana State the next month, and he wins the field. So we go into rest mode after that.
Right, understood. Yeah.
We try to do the best we can with his ankle.
Yeah.
Well, we were going to the Top Gun in October. Top Gun was at Pamplico. We went there. And he's got a pretty good scar on his ankle. He had some infection get in there, but anyway, he's not 100%. This dog's not nowhere near 100%.
Right.
And that's when we were running Jay Bird and Yak Yak and Yo-Yo then.
Yeah.
And I think Jay Bird won the bench there, and Ike won the field. He won the Top Gun there, but this dog, there's a story there. First day, me and my wife were there, Morgan, and once again, I'm very blessed. I have a wonderful wife, and great kids.
Awesome.
And I've left them out totally throughout our visit. But anyway, we were both there together, and they had one of the biggest Calcuttas I'd ever seen. And that was, we were out east, and y'all are a little stronger out there on the Calcutta than we are over here. And everybody, they had all kind of pots, $100 pot, $50 pot, pots, singles. And man, I knew what I had. And I just kept betting, and I said, well, I don't want to leave this one out, don't want to leave that now. And when I got done, I didn't have a penny left. First day there, and my wife went hysterical. She didn't know what to do. She said, Paul, we ain't got no way to get home. I said, we'll figure out a way.
Right.
And Ed Pritchard, he was watching it all when I was doing that. She was cutting up, and I don't know, I mean, y'all know Ed Pritchard, but he wore overalls, and he was a character now.
Yeah.
And Ed come over there, and he was from Louisiana. He hunted right there in my pen. He said, look, buddy, I'll get you home. Just put the money up. Well, I said, all right.
That's all you need to hear.
That's all I need to hear. Well, anyway, at the end of that day, we won $10,000.
Oh, my gosh.
So that was
good.
I'll never forget that trip. But the third day there, I won. Jaybird, Yak Yak, and them were extremely fast dogs. So I won a lot of Calcutta there that first day. But to make a long story short, I basically, that ankle went at that hunt, and I basically had to carry him to cast. Roll call the third day.
Wow.
And he walked down the road. He walked off from cast. He didn't trot. He didn't run. He walked down the road.
Whew.
You've seen those dogs that can't hardly go.
Yep.
He left walking, and I was wondering,
did I make a mistake?
Should I catch him, or what should I do? And about 10 minutes, and he had a mouth that was not, you couldn't mistake it for anything. I mean,
right.
It was a drive and chop mouth, and he pulled it, and I could hear him. In about 10 minutes, I heard him coming. I ran to that gate, the far gate there at Pamplico, and there was a black coyote. I'll never forget it. A black coyote crossed there, and he had number 9 on him. Everybody knows that's one of my favorite numbers. But he had a number 9. Everybody went to hollering his number. They'd been hollering it the first 2 days, and I said, right. When he crossed that road, I said to myself, "Are you kidding me?" and I just turned around. I knew that he'd take care of the rest, and he did.
That's it. That's heart.
Yeah.
That's something you can't teach in no dog. That's heart right there.
I tell you, a lot of people wonder, should I do this to a dog? Should I give him this, or what do I need to do to make this dog finish, or what do I need to do to make this dog win?
Yep.
And the best medication for that dog, Lakehills Ike, was coyote scent in his nostrils.
Get him back out there.
When he smelled a coyote, that was all. It was just like the best drug he could ever have. He was a good one.
Yeah, that's definitely something. Like I said, that's something you just can't teach. Like when you got a dog that's what they want to do, and that's what gets them going. That's the ones right there. That's the ones. Yeah,
he was a 2-time field champion and won numerous one-day hunts.
I know he won the Top Gun. What was the other one?
He won Louisiana State.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's now time for the Spotlight, presented by Cinjun Lights. This is where each week we will recognize winners and other accomplishments across the field trial world. Now let's shine a light on these guys and these dogs, and let's get to this week's winners. All right, let's get into the... Well, we're going to kind of do a double up here. Not much going on with the Around the Howl. So I will just kind of do a little quick touch on something. North Carolina guys, Virginia guys, There's a lot going on, especially down there in North Carolina. That bill is a nasty bill, and I hope everybody does. It looks like it was a good turnout at the last meeting. Hopefully y'all can beat this and strengthen numbers. I need to try to do better effort on my end to try to do something to help. But guys that are down there and directly affected by this, be sure to look and see what you can do to help fight this bill that's going on, that's trying to get passed through. Do some research on it. It's nasty, guys. That's all I really have right now. Like I said, I've been dealing with a lot, guys. I said that at the beginning of the episode, and I do apologize. I've not been on the up and up with a lot of stuff, and I do apologize for that. So, with that being said, let's move into the spotlight presented by Cinjun Lights. We're going to start off, since I missed it last week, we're going to hit the coastal Georgia at Swainsboro. We're going to start with the best opposite sex, and that was Hotline Loco from Hotline Kennels, and the best in show was Wicked Walker's Peaches from Wicked Walker Kennels. As far as the Derby goes, the best mouth was presented, but there was no information on it. The Classy Hound was Red's Black Max, and that dog's out of Champion Kennedy's 8 Ball, and Red's Faith from Justin Lucas. The combination winner for the Derby was Rockin' Tootsie Roll and that dog's out of CF's Blaze, and Terracoat's Caroline from Rockin' Trees Kennels. And the Derby winner was New River Page. That dog's out of New River Blaze and New River Stream from Alfred Woods. The all-age, I didn't see a whole lot of information on this one. I did some looking trying to find it, and the only thing that I could find was your champion, and that was Red's Johnny Ringo, and that dog's out of Champion Dogpile John Wayne, and Tracy's Lily from Justin Lucas as well. Next up, we have the Big W Memorial 3-day at the Old Tram. The best mouth was Shelly's Big Head, and that dog's out of Shelly's Big Boy, and Shuckin' and Drivin' Solo from Hunter Shelley. The Classy Hound was High Voltage Spec, and that dog's out of Redwood's Monster Boy, and High Voltage Speckles from High Voltage Kennels. The dual and combination winner was Fowler's J Bird HL, and that dog's out of Millard's Ringer Ray and Fowler's Zuna HL, High Life Kennels. And the field champion is Fowler's Pepper High Life, and that dog's out of B&B's Chrome, and Fowler's Foxy Lady from High Life Kennels. And I hope I'm not messing this up. It was a little confusing on some of the things that I had seen for the Central Arkansas, so I hope I'm getting this right. And I hope somebody will correct me, and I can correct it on the next episode if I was wrong. But what I am seeing is the best opposite sex was Caney Boys Brook, and that dog's out of Caney Boys Red Moon and DH Strawberry Hill. And the best in show was Mountain Dew's Pressure from Caney Boys Red Moon and King's Butterbean. The best mouth was Treywick's Shabuzi. that name's funny. And that dog's out of Treywick's Cruise and Treywick's Reese, and that from Treywick Kennels. And I hope I'm saying that name right. The Classy Hound was Mountain Dew's Pressure, and that dog's out of Cane Boys Red Moon and King's Butterbean from Candy Drew Kennels. Then the combination and winner for the hunt was Tillman's Marzo, and that dog's out of Treywick's Royal and Treywick's Eyes from Poor Boy Kennels. And last but not least is the South Carolina Masters 3-day at 95. The combination, let's back that up just a touch. The best mouth was a dog named Sheriff. That dog's out of B&B's Chrome and B&B's Kate from Dark Bay Kennels. The Classy Hound was Champion Slip-A-Man Wild Boy, and that dog's out of Champion Crisco's Wild Boy and Champion Hollow Oaks Black Betty from Slip-A-Man Kennels. Now the combination winner, and that dog's out of K&J's Wrecking Ball and Virginia Breeze's Virginia Power. I may be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure VB is Virginia Breeze. Virginia Power, and that dog's out of K&J's Purple Rain, The dog's that from K&J Tukidoo Kennels. And the field champion for this hunt is the Hickory Hill Sandy, and that dog is out of champion Hollow Oaks Donnie and champion Hickory Hill Delta from Hickory Hill Kennels. Whew, that's a mouthful. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for this. What we are going to do is we're going to come back and finish this episode out. I hope everybody has enjoyed this one. There's so much more. And at the end of next week's episode, you will be able to hear his Mount Rushmore of the top 4 dogs that he's competed against. So that one's got an interesting twist at the end of it, and I love it, man. I love it. Like I said, I hope y'all have enjoyed this one. I promise y'all will enjoy the last hour of this episode or so. And I hope everybody has a good rest of their week. Good luck to everybody at the hunts this weekend. I know there's quite a few hunts coming up. I will try my best to be on them and get everything out to y'all as soon as I can. But all right, guys, hope to see y'all at the Tidewater. And like always, guys, see y'all and happy hunting.